the children of thunder, murder, prophecy, and a cult fueled by delusion. He believed he was a prophet. He claimed that God had chosen him to usher in a new world, a world free from sin and corruption and disease, a perfect world. This is the story of Glenn Taylor Helzer and the Children of Thunder, a bizarre cult born from twisted Mormon offshoots, stock scams, and murder. Cults Uncovered, Episode 2. Viewer discretion is strongly advised. This content may be too disturbing for some viewers. We, the makers of this video, in no way support or condone the actions of the subjects featured. This is made purely for educational and entertainment purposes. Chapter 1, Our Prophet is Born. Let me tell you about Glenn Taylor Helzer. But wait, he's not just any guy. He's known as the Prophet. That's what he called himself, anyway, though to those closest to him, he was known as Saint Elmo or Elmo. Born in 1967, Helzer grew up in a strict Mormon family in Southern California. But he never quite fit in. After graduating high school, he left for Las Vegas to study computer science at the University of Nevada, but dropped out after 3 semesters. Always restless, he traveled around the western U.S., working odd jobs and dabbling in New Age spirituality. He would later claim that these years were spent training for his future calling. And maybe they were. In 1989, he returned to California and got a job as an insurance broker, but he quickly moved on to stocks and commodities. According to court records, he pulled in some clients, including one woman named Selena Bishop. She was the daughter of blues legend Elvin Bishop and the granddaughter of Latter-day Saints pioneer Brigham Young. Perhaps Helzer saw it as a sign when their paths crossed. Whatever the case, their relationship soon soured. Helzer was charged with misappropriating client funds, and in 1994 he was sued by Bishop herself. 2 years later, she filed a complaint with the state regulator, alleging that Helzer had defrauded her out of tens of thousands of dollars. The details are murky and several allegations were never proven, but the suit seems to have been settled in 1996. So what happened next? Well, that's not entirely clear either. But Helzer's mental health was clearly deteriorating. He was diagnosed with bipolar disorder and was excommunicated from the Mormon Church after marrying a woman named Kimmy. Unable to come to terms with his expulsion, he decided God wasn't finished with him yet. He was going to have a second chance. He began seeing a therapist, but after he nearly drowned in the ocean one day, he stopped attending sessions. As he told authorities, he was visited by God and given a divine mission. We can guess how this kind of story usually goes. On March 14, 1999, Glenn Helzer declared himself a prophet. It didn't happen all at once. Instead, it was a gradual process. He'd had visions, he said, and spoken with God. Together, they developed a plan to prepare the world for the imminent second coming. It would be a time of peace and prosperity, he explained, but first they had to flush out the sinners and corrupt leaders who stood in the way. But he wasn't alone. God had chosen others to help carry out his vision. First, there was Justin Lee Carswell, Helzer's younger brother. Then there was Dawn Marie Godman, Helzer's live-in girlfriend. Together, they formed the Children of Thunder. Chapter 2, The Plan. But before we get started, remember to subscribe so you don't miss out on future episodes. If you're a fan of true crime and unexplained mysteries, we know you'll love our show. And now back to the show. According to Helzer, God gave them a series of steps to take, a secret formula for success. It was written down in a notebook and dubbed the 12 Principles of Magic. The instructions were simple enough. Make money, kill people. With the help of his brother and girlfriend, Helzer set about getting rich quick. And like most cults, they started small. Remember Selena Bishop, the woman Helzer had been sued by? Well, she was still living in California with her mother, Sharon, and her mother's boyfriend, Greg. Though the lawsuit had been settled, she hadn't forgotten about what Helzer had done. However, Helzer was no longer concerned with winning her over. Instead, he wanted to use her. He befriended the family again and slowly inserted himself into their lives. While his brother Justin kept a close eye on Bishop, Helzer turned on the charm. Soon, he convinced Sharon and Greg to go on a trip to Mexico while he looked after Selena, supposedly to help her overcome some unspecified trauma. While they were gone, however, Helzer and Justin slipped some drugs into Bishop's food and assaulted her. Once she passed out, they bound her with duct tape, locked her in a safe and transferred $30,000 from her account to a new account in Utah. Then they drove to the desert and left her there to die. Her body was never recovered. Helzer still had more tricks up his sleeve, and you won't believe what's next. The following year, he killed her mother and her mother's boyfriend, dismembering their bodies and discarding them in the desert. Later, he would kill a fourth person, Rodney Halbauer, a businessman who'd worked with Helzer years earlier. All the while, Helzer carefully documented his crimes in detail in a leather journal, explaining that each murder was part of a divine plan to usher in a new world order. Each life taken brought him closer to God and the impending apocalypse. Chapter 3: Capture and Confession. So how long did this go on for? Just over a year. Between May 2000 and April 2001, Helzer carried out at least 5 brutal murders, taking meticulous notes all the while. But the children of thunder weren't careful. Body parts began washing up along the Sacramento River, leading police to believe they were dealing with a serial killer. Forensic teams linked the remains to a house in Citrus Heights, California, which turned out to be the Helzer residence. What officers stumbled upon inside was totally beyond anything they could have imagined. In the basement, they found Glenn's journal, filled with disturbing drawings and accounts of his crimes. There were also chains, knives, a shotgun, and other items used in the killings. Somehow, amidst all the carnage, Helzer had managed to keep a copy of his 12 Principles of Magic playbook. It was here, too. Police also found photos of the victims and documentation of the fraudulent accounts Helzer used to launder his money. Helzer himself was arrested in a hotel room where he'd been holed up. He was cooperative at first, even offering to lead police to the remaining body parts. But he quickly tried to walk back his confession. But honestly, there was just so much proof stacked up against him and his brother. Justin committed suicide in his jail cell. Don Godman agreed to cooperate with police and testified against Helzer, who was convicted on 5 counts of first-degree murder. He was sentenced to death. But this raises a question. If the Children of Thunder was such a small group, why isn't more known about them? Chapter 4: The Cult That Almost Was. According to Helzer's own writings, his vision included building a self-sufficient empire, overthrowing the Mormon Church, and eventually leading a nation. Sounds familiar, right? Well, it turns out that's because a lot of modern doomsday cults follow a similar structure, even if they never gain much public attention. Many experts believe that Helzer was operating a cult, even if he didn't succeed in creating a mass movement. Author Margaret Singer, who specialized in cult studies, believed that Helzer was at least aware of some of the common traits shared between cults and cult leaders. These include inflated charisma, grandiose promises, and grandiosity. However, this makes Helzer's case all the more terrifying. If he didn't need many followers to carry out his vision, then maybe all it takes is one delusional man and 2 others willing to follow him to the end. But thankfully, that's the case. Unlike more notorious cults, the Children of Thunder never grew in size, meaning their legacy is limited to the 5 people they killed. However, their actions remain a stark warning that doomsday groups don't always look or behave the way we expect. Sometimes all it takes is one man's delusion, a willingness to bend to his will, and a morbid fascination with magic. Thank you for watching episode 2 of Cults Uncovered. Let us know what you thought. If you want more stories like this, subscribe and comment thunder below. Next episode, a wilderness commune turned torture chamber, the Anthill Kids. For more mysteries of the unknown, stay tuned for more content. See you next time. This is The Mystery.